Modern Mystic video. I think, yes, it's a very nice day, so I am going to sit in the sun while I make the video. So sorry if it's way too bright and cheerful or something like that. Anyway, really, I thought I fed you. I'm damn sure I did. I fed you. Yes, I did. You're fed, so leave me alone. Damn. I thought he was, I thought he'd be preoccupied with something else to do. Man, I know, do something else. Damn it. You're going to just terribly distract me and ruin the whole video. You already did. You already ruined the whole video. Anyway, alright, Nick. Okay, so first, this whole idea that there's nothing we can predict or nothing we can do or nothing we can control or blah, 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 blah. I just don't get the whole point of it. Yeah, a lot of it's out of our control. A lot of it is unanticipated. Blah, blah, blah. The road to hell is paved in good intentions. All of that shit is good things to be mindful of. But this has gotten a little bit silly. I mean, people in your comments section are basically defending pyramids now. And the best you could do as a comment was, well, Gary doesn't think tourism is very productive. I mean, if you really can't tell the difference between a scientist in a laboratory, discovering something about silicone and being able to invent now computers or smaller computers and all this other stuff, you don't see the difference between those activities and building pyramids. If you can't tell that one activity is basically just piling rocks on top of rocks for no good reason, and the other activity has incredible potential to enhance human existence, what's the point of the conversation? I mean, at one point, maybe that's how you view life. I mean, you really just don't think there's any difference in terms of the quality of your life. Sitting in the sun or sitting in a cubicle answering the phone, all the same thing. No, I don't think it is. The more time people can spend sitting in the sun, the less time they have to spend sitting in cubicles, the better. To acquire the same kind of quality of life. It's just silly. Progress is great, and progress is made out of certain kinds of work, and certain other kinds of work are just a blight on that work. And to say that my basics are way off because I understand that all wealth is created out of the productivity workers create, out of the added value that is extracted out of their work. They don't get paid the actual value of what they create. They get paid a percentage of it, and the wealth is the taking of the extra value that their work creates. There's a damn wasp that wants to fuck with me. So what, you guys? I just wish you would argue with some of this more specifically. This general accusation that I don't know what the fuck I'm talking about is really irritating. It really is. All right. So the real question is there's two choices. Investment capital. Okay, let's talk about what that is in the first place. It's made out of surplus, right? So the surplus is monetized, right? You give the surplus value. You create dollar bills as a representation, let's say, of that value. And you call that investment capital. Now the choice is who's going to control the investment capital, the notes. All right, and later on we'll get into what the notes are now, because there's more than one kind. But let's just stick with money, regular cash money. That's the one that is the certain you're going to be able to buy a laborer with. So that's the investment capital, and it's now going to be allocated and decided how it's going to be spent. And it's that, I'm not going to, it's just so irritating. So yeah, there's a difference. We can decide to make a Hoover Dam, or we can decide to build a pyramid. I'm going to vote logically for the Hoover Dam. I'm going to vote for the piece of social infrastructure, the thing that has potential to give back productivity and value for hundreds of years, and say, fuck that to piling rocks on top of rocks for no good reason. That's what I'm going to say. I'm going to say there is a difference between productive labor and useless, pointless, idiotic labor. And I'm going to go with productive labor where possible. And maybe I can't control, and maybe I can't predict every bit of it, but I can predict enough of it that I'm going to say go for it. You know, let's try to figure it out. Let's try to figure out good from bad. All right. Now the real point is that this investment capital, in a certain way, surplus exists. Okay, it's almost like it can't be created or destroyed. You know, it wouldn't be overtly destroyed. I mean, somebody wouldn't just burn down a farm or, you know, no, come on, go find something else to do, please. No, go find something else to do. Go chase something. I know I'm going to miss him when he's gone, but damn it. No! You stupid, crazy fuck. Anyway. Good. Yay. Decided to go hop over there. Yeah, go eat some more food. That's it. Good kitty. Alright, so let's say that this investment capital stuff, this surplus, right? That's what it is. Surplus is not going to be destroyed. Alright, and it's created through labor. So, but let's just say it's it's almost like the energy thing. It cannot be created or destroyed. I mean, it's not really about making it. It's about deciding who will allocate it, the power of it. But the fact that it exists is a fact. So the surplus that exists in the world now, the value that exists in the world now, exists in the world. Okay? And all we're really talking about is who should control the power that surplus represents in terms of initiating future labor. Because that's what it does. Well, you can't see my arm gesture, but it's initiating future labor. That's what surplus does. And we're arguing about who should decide how we allocate that initiation of future labor. A selfish rich asshole, or we the people. That's how I look at it. There's two choices. We the people can decide, or we can let the selfish motherfuckers decide. The selfish, self-interested motherfuckers. I mean, at minimum, let's go find a selfish, self-interested scientist somewhere and let him decide. Let's go force somebody to decide. Give them a coin and tell them to decide. Would be better than to give the money, the surplus, to the control, to people who are self-interested. I mean, that's automatically a negative. And it's going to create all the gimmickry and the gadgetry and the bullshittery that we have. The convoluted politics with the idiotic financing rules, the convoluted tax code with all the escape hatches and all the nuance and the gamery that is going on to make it so people don't have to pay taxes. The privileged people, the Trumps of the world can go bankrupt, and unlike the rest of us, they don't really go bankrupt. They're able to isolate all their assets and say that you can't touch these assets or these assets or these assets, but we'll call these the ones that are the ones in this particular game. I can play the game from all different player positions. I don't have to be just one player like all the rest of you normal citizens. I don't have any such protection as an individual. I can't be protected from liability and say, well, all these assets are protected. You can't touch any of my wealth because I'm decide to call that Jim's wealth, even though it's my wealth. It's just absolute nonsense. The bullshit that's created by this self-interest. And so let's talk about how the capital's invested. So they invest the capital in this thing called the stock market. And what's the game? The game is give me the biggest return, okay? So do something where you're ripping the consumers off so you make enough profits so people will buy the stock. Or else just pay me a flat out a dividend because you ripped off the consumers enough. And that's all it's about. It's about who ripped the consumers off the best. Isn't that really how you make money? You have to basically steal it from consumers. You have to basically sell them something for more than it's worth, so you make a profit. You have to pay the laborers less than the value they create, so you make your profit. Unravel the simple basic truth of that. And why should it be that way? I say it doesn't have to be that way. We can treat every individual by the same standards, and the value of their contribution can be judged by the same standards. And they don't have to be, the privileged get to reap out all the profit and have no liability, and the poor have all the liability and get no profit. I mean, what the fuck is that? Well, what is a sham. And then I haven't even touched upon inheritance, and the fact is that most of this wealth is controlled by people who didn't earn it. They didn't work a day in their life for it, so where's your invisible hand there? How could the invisible hand possibly be doing anything? I think Adam Smith made it quite clear he was against inheritance. He thought it was a game breaker. It's an invisible hand breaker, because now there is no feedback loop here. There's no justice. There's no just desserts. There's no counterbalance. There's no action for every reaction. Okay, it's a false and a fake credibility that people get merely because they have a name. Terrible, 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 terrible. No incentive carrots built out of that. No discouraging whips built out of that. It's just absolute nonsense. And you can't admit that? All right, so again, surplus creates investment capital, and it's about who controls the surplus, whether we the people should control it or whether the selfish fucks should control it. All right, so let's get to the stock market, because I think that one's important. All right, so the money thing is the cash thing, and the cash is perfectly sensible. Okay, there's not that much cash. $5 trillion, big deal. No big deal. The real problem is all the bond notes and the stock notes, because there are claims on that cash. There are extra claims on that cash. And the real end game is when will there be a run on the cash, right? A run on the bank, so to speak. But it will be really a run on the real cash, real value, because the stock market is preposterously overvalued. But all that money is being counted as real money. So here you have money that has as its collateral, as its substance, as what it's based on. I mean, the $5 trillion in cash is backed by the assets of the United States of America. But the stock market is based on future earnings and a perception of future value. And so it's completely fake money in the sense that it has no collateral. You're talking about 40 or 50 to 1. Okay, it's worth, it's not even, it's almost 2 pennies on a dollar, right? Is the real asset value is 2 cents on a dollar of that paper. And so that's a huge pile of claims, and they're just hiding. I mean, they're claims on cash that are only collateralized by 2 cents on the dollar, and they're sitting out there as claims. And as long as nobody turns them into real claims, it's okay. They can just sit out there. But that's the game. That's the problem, is there will be a day where there's a run on the bank. And when that day comes is when the whole thing falls apart, because somebody's going to have to get the 2 cents on their dollar. Somebody's going to have to realize the real value of that fake stock value. And when in a world where future earnings won't be relevant anymore, and everybody's going to say, what's my hard asset? I don't care what you can deliver 100 years from now. I care what you can deliver now, today. And in that world, that stock paper isn't going to be worth anything. And so somebody's going to have to lose a lot of their asset value. 2 cents on their dollar is what it equals. And you're talking trillions of dollars of claims of cash, claims on cash, that are sitting out there that are collateralized as 2 cents. They're really only worth 2 cents on the dollar. All right, and then you got the federal deficit, and there's no way to pay that back, right? You have to recycle every dollar in cash has to be recycled through some exchange 3 times to pay back the national debt. So somehow you have to create 3 times $5 trillion worth of value to undo that debt. But again, it's another huge, preposterous claim on cash that has no real value. I mean, realistically, the only way it goes away is if there's huge inflation. That's the only way to undo that debt. It can't be paid back. No one's going to do $15 trillion of work. No one's going to do the 3 years of hard labor in the gulag to pay it back. Okay, 100 million, 150 million people have to go out and work for 4 or 5 years in the gulag to pay that back. No one's going to do that. That ain't going to happen. So that, again, those bonds are more assets that aren't worth their face value. They're not worth shit. They're worth money in a future where inflation has destroyed the value of all the money. But they're worth nothing in reality. As a practical matter. And so it's all about when the run on the bank is. So that's all we're trying to say. We're all sitting back here, and I predicted the run on the bank 10 years ago. I mean, I really did. And for 10 years, I keep saying it's got to happen, it's got to happen, it's got to happen, it's got to happen, and it doesn't happen. But it's going to happen, right? I mean, it's going to have to. The claims are too enormous. And the value of all our other assets is diminishing. So, I mean, eventually the rich are going to own every single, they're going to own those cat dishes over there. They're going to rent those to me. They're going to rent this rotten wood chips. They're going to rent it to me. Because they're going to own everything. Because they have amassed so much money in comparison to my money. That my money will have no meaning. It'll have no relevance whatsoever because they'll have so many claims to outcompete me for the value. So I'm out of the game. People are out of the game, and they're the only ones left with all the money. And it's not going to be a functional world, but sooner or later people are just going to give up in that world. And they're not going to keep us employed. They're not going to pay us to work when they can't make a profit off our labor. So they will unemploy us eventually, except for as servants, of course. But I think a lot of people are going to smell that, and they're going to need security to watch the workers because the workers aren't going to enjoy working for them, and they're probably going to try to, do them in one way or another. All right. So then, but this all brings us back to. The value being created out of the productivity of labor. That's where the wealth is created. The rich don't create the wealth. They steal it from workers. They steal it from the productivity of industry, of people doing work, people inventing and innovating. That's where they get it from. So that is good work because it creates productivity that the rich can steal. But it's still good work. And the point is that that value of that innovation, the value of the knowledge gained, the value of just the raw fact that it takes time and effort to build a house, but it has lasting value once it's built. And it's not just stacking rocks on top of rocks. This has value. A pyramid does not. Even in this condition, it has value. It does seem to keep most of the snow out, but I do have to fix the roof because it is falling down. But anyway, I got to hire me some workers because I really just don't feel like doing anything. I'm liking this sitting in the sun thing. I wish I could get paid to do that. I wish this was productive labor. Yeah. I mean, I wish I could make other people happy by me just sitting in the sun. Yeah, I wish I could sell it. It's good. I like it. Alright, so I think I've hit all I needed to hit here. But I just think it's just bullshit for you to say, in this vague sense, that I have the basics wrong when you don't articulate any counter-argument to my basics beyond saying, well, the system we have is the best system there is because it's worked and look at what we have. And there's just no concession to the fact that it does this cyclical destruction thing every 80 years where there's a run on the bank. And partly this might just be it's a run on the stock market. I mean, it might be a lie. 1929 might not have been a run on the bank, quote unquote. It was a run on the stock market. It was a run because everybody said these stocks aren't worth the paper they're written on. And everybody said, I'm getting the fuck out of here because I want something that's actually worth what the paper it's written on. And you know, come on. It is sort of obvious. The stock market is about, you know, a long-term future payoff, and it has nothing to do with anything today and real. And again, that's where debt can hide. Debt can hide in the future. It can just sit out there and wait to destroy your cash, the value of your money. Okay, it's an IOU. It just sits out there saying, you owe me half your money. And so I basically have the debt today, and it shows up tomorrow. It's the credit card syndrome, and that's all these economies have gotten trapped in. They've gotten trapped in the credit card syndrome. They've bought a very nice, exciting, fun life on a credit card. And then now there's a bill hanging over their head, and there's no way to pay it. And so again, gulags are not going to happen. So the rich are not going to get their money. There's going to be a run on the bank. There's going to be a run on the stock market. A lot of ne'er-do-wells are not going to be so well off anymore. And a lot of poor people are going to be really bad off. And everybody's going to be bad off because the whole thing's going to be blown up merely because there's too many IOUs. Not because the industries are broken, not because this grass isn't growing properly. There's no fundamental flaw in the world. The only fundamental flaw is we have too many pieces of paper saying one man owes another man half his money, or 3/4 of his money, or all of his money. And that's all. That's the only thing that's going to blow this up. It's not one structural thing wrong with the world, except for the pollution and the, abusive labor practices and all that shit. But I just mean the structure isn't broken. The people are broken. Those little shitty pieces of paper are going to trash. Millions of lives are going to get trashed over these stupid fucking pieces of paper. And they're pieces of paper saying, I owe you a Lamborghini. They're not even pieces of paper saying, I owe you a house, or I owe you warm, gas in the winter so you can be warm, or I owe you a good meal. No, it's I owe you a Lamborghini. It's I owe you a diamond ring. I owe you a Gucci bag. That's all bad labor, wasted labor, and it all comes out of productivity. Every bit of wealth, every bit of good dollar comes out of somebody doing good labor, not doing garbage labor. Transient, vaporous labor that lasts today and then it's gone. The only one you can see to is medical services, but there's a lot of bad labor in there in terms of, I would call it wasted. A lot of energy trying to keep people alive who are already dead. But it has a social good by most people's definition. So it's in that middle ground. But you just can't deny the difference between the tremendous productivity gleaned by a project like flying to the moon versus a project like, let's build another whatever you call that thing with the 3-4 heads on it. Let's build another one of those things. Let's carve faces in the side of a mountain. Yeah, no. That ain't going to get you any new technology. That ain't going to get you anything. Flying to the moon is going to improve your life. There's going to be long implications of productivity, strings and strands that are going to, the fallout, the radioactive fallout from something like that is huge by comparison. There is good money spent and there is bad money spent. And, good ways to spend and bad ways to spend. And it's just idiotic, I think. Just idiotic that I would have to sit there and, I'm just amazed that anybody would sit there and defend the pyramids. I'm just amazed that people are that insanely capitalistic that they will defend such a preposterous waste of human suffering. It just amazes me, sorry. Just fucking amazes me. Well, it depresses me. That's what it does. It's an amazing depression that it gives me. So anyway, enough of the video. Until next time and such.